An idea born out of Monday morning chats at the coffee machine. In this series, we chat to our guests about their going out experiences and how it shaped them.
Join us, Pippa
and Georgia,
team members at Skiddle who love going out and miss chatting about it.
Hello and welcome to Series 2 of the Going Out podcast. This is the first episode of Series 2 and you're back with Pippa and Georgia. And we've got a really exciting first guest in the series.
This week on the podcast, we're joined by Sacha Lord, and we talked about his early days at the Hacienda, right up to his conversations with the government as the nighttime economy advisor.
We covered all things Warehouse Project and Parklife.
Oh, yes.
Spanning back to the Boddington's brewery days, right up until Mayfield Depot. And yeah, it was a really exciting conversation covering how important nightlife is to all of our lives. Tune in.
Enjoy.
Today we're joined by Sacha Lord, DJ, co-creator of Parklife Festival and the Warehouse Project. He's also the nighttime economy advisor for Greater Manchester. So welcome to the Going Out podcast.
Thank you. Can I just point one thing out?
Yes.
I've never DJ'd in my entire life.
Didn't you say that your dad went to go watch it?
Yeah. My dad has been telling me that he saw you when you used to do a residency right at the beginning of your career in Ashton. Is that a complete lie?
Well, no, right. So this is awkward. So there is a DJ Sacha, but it's spelled differently. So I'm S-A-C-H-A. He's S-A-S-H-A. And DJ Sacha did start in Ashton. Then he had a residency at Shelley's in Stoke and also the Hacienda as well. But he has played at the Warehouse Project.
And I'm so glad that we've cleared this up because my dad literally says that.
Can we say this or not? Should we just start again?
Of course you can. Should I just get my coat and leave?
No.
Want to speak to you.
It's not like we had questions about your DJ career. It was more... That's so funny.
That is so funny.
So we'll start at the very beginning. Your very first going out experiences. We've been reading up a bit about you, and I noticed that you were going out to the Hacienda back in the day. Was Hacienda the first things that you were going to? Where were you going out?
No, it wasn't. So obviously, as a growing up kid, you start off at house parties, don't you?
Yeah.
But when I first started to venture into town, there was a place called DeVille's, which I think now is the old Smokehouse on Lloyd Street. And that was it was a nightclub. It just played band music. So, don't forget this is just before like the house explosion. So you'd play like James, Smiths, Happy Mondays. And then all of a sudden the kids at school were talking about, the Hacienda. That's like the cool place to go. So when you went to DeVille's, I used to borrow my dad's shirt and tie and jacket and then rock up thinking I was like the Dom. So that I turned up at the Hacienda the following week dressing like that. I got to the front door and they said, what? You're not coming in. So I just looked at everyone that were just there in like tie-dye T-shirts and jeans. So I tried again 2 weeks later and I got in. And I have to say, there has never been an experience in my entire life like that first time when I walked through the doors that I was hooked. I walked into a venue where there were 2,000 people in there. I'd never seen anything like it before. I was used to all the other clubs were playing music where, they'd stop every 5 minutes and announce that a purse had been found that belongs to Tracy or something like that. Not on the Hacienda, the music was just carrying on. Didn't matter who you were, what background you were from. It just did not matter. Everybody was there for the same reason. And I think it was probably only 6 months later I realised that myself and my friend were the only people not on ecstasy. But there was definitely love in the air. It was, I'd never seen anything like it. I think that one moment of walking through those doors, that was me. I was sold.
Yeah. Wow. Do you feel like the Hacienda kind of set the bar high for all the other clubs around the area at that time?
Not just the area, Pepper, the world. When I was growing up, Manchester was known as Manchester. The whole world, and this isn't an exaggeration, you can do the research on this, not that the two of you are great on research, but looking that was a joke, by the way. They all eyes were on Manchester. It was our music, it was our bands, it was our football, it was what you were wearing, our fashion, everything was coming out of this city. And yeah, that did set the bar. Nothing's come near it since.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And when you were Did that introduce you to all the music that you were listening to? Were you listening to those artists before you were going out?
No, so everybody thinks that I'm into house music or techno music, and I'm really not. If you get into my car, I will be playing either the Smiths or Prince or David Bowie. He's my absolute idol. I only have one tattoo, and I always swore all my life I'd never have a tattoo. And actually, when Bowie died, I had a tattoo done on the inside of my foot. It was the star from his last album, Black Star. So yeah, I get music, I get the house music scene, I get the techno thing, but when I'm walking around Warehouse, it's not my cup of tea.
I suppose that's quite surprising, knowing that kind of events that you run, like with Warehouse Project and stuff. But in terms of the music that you listen to, Warehouse first, weren't you booking artists that weren't necessarily directly electronic and maybe more bands and stuff?
Indie.
No, we did. We had quite a few indie bands actually, but no, don't forget before Warehouse Project, I had Sankey Soap 2000 to 2006, so I was right in the thick of it when it came to house and techno and drum and bass. But you're right, on the opening night we had Public Enemy. The night after that we were supposed to have Kasabian, they pulled out last minute, and actually they were doing it for free. They just wanted portions of chips and gravy. We had the Claxons, we've had Florence and the Machine. We've had loads and loads of bands go through Warehouse Projects. It's not all just about electronic music.
Yeah. Would you kind of book those kinds of artists now at Warehouse Project, do you think?
100%, definitely.
Yeah.
I think that's.
I remember at Homo Block you had Crazy P, and I know that Crazy P can be a bit more electronic as well, but that was amazing. Just have that in that atmosphere and that venue, I think, was just incredible.
I think that was the best event last year during our season by a long shot. It was incredible. It really was.
Yeah, without a doubt.
Totally. So if you had more of a focus on other types of music, what led you into kind of your projects with Sankey's and Warehouse Project? Was it a love for going out, maybe?
No, actually, it was, a friend of mine was putting a few parties on back in 93, 94, so I thought I'd try it. I never even thought about it as a career as a promoter. But yeah, I just, the first event was 4th of July 94 at the Hacienda, and it just escalated from there. I realised I made a few £100 in my pocket. Bearing in mind, in those days, I was working in a clothes shop earning £20 a day. So actually to have a few £100 in your pocket made a difference. And I think it was just that I got the bug.
Yeah.
And when you started Sankey's, it was revived from the 90s. What made you revive Sankey's and bring that back?
I think things had changed. So Sankey's was open originally in 94 to 98. And 98 was sort of the pinnacle of the naughtiness that went on in Manchester. It wasn't security or the police that were running the doors in those times. I don't want to spend too much time on that, but it wasn't the greatest of environments, to be honest. We got tagged with the title Gunchester. I think that sort of sums it up. And then the police got a real hold on it. They did a fantastic job. And in 2000, October 2000, we reopened it, and I think everybody thought we're absolutely mental to do it. And it didn't come without its challenges. But we did it to a success as well.
What kind of numbers were they getting, the one in the 90s and compared to the one that you were getting, or was it the same size kind of event?
Exactly the same size. Same building, same space, same size.
Yeah. And for those that might know Sankey's in Ibiza, what's the difference between the one in Manchester? Is it the same for those listening at home?
Do you know what? So when I had Sankey's, I had it with a guy called David Vincent. And in the end, in 2006, I decided I was bored of Sankey's. He was supposed to pay me out. He never did. We had a dispute. So apparently I'm banned from Sankey's in Ibiza, but I don't think he owns it anymore. I think it's all into it pear-shaped. But Sankey's in Manchester now is headquarters to the Prince's Trust. And I went to the opening of it. It was amazing. And they've actually kept some really nice touches, like some of the original lights and stuff in there. It's brilliant.
Oh, wow. We spoke about this with Mason Collective, and they said that they used to love going to Sankey's.
Yeah, it was like the home.
And we asked them how they felt about the venue being made into like office
Yeah,
spaces.
because that's such a strange experience. What was it like for you walking in and like knowing that you were there? But
it was weird when I was walking around, and I was the only person in there really that knew what it was like. There was, the opening was full of suits, but I knew where the DJ box, which should have been, where the main bar should have been. And being honest, I couldn't think of a better organisation for it to go to, to help young kids come through the ranks now. Young kids that need a start, need an advantage, and they did respect some of the original club, which I thought was really nice. So no, it was good to see actually.
Yeah,
it could have been some really crappy flats, which I'm delighted it wasn't.
Yeah,
is that how you feel about Hacienda?
That's the next question.
So after you left Sankey's, you started Warehouse Project. What was the thought behind that?
So myself and Sam's my business partner, when we were at Sankey's, we came quite bored of the same four walls week in, week out. And in 2003, August of 23rd, 2003, we held the first legal warehouse party. We managed to convince the authorities to give it a license since Thatcher had shut them all down. And that was amazing. It was 12,000 people. We brought the sound system in on the back of lorries. It was really raw. And we left Sankey and said, "Look, let's do something similar to that again." And then the idea actually was to put 4 or 5 shows on. Sam got ultra excited and booked 24, and that was the start of the Warehouse Project. It was supposed to be a project of 4 or 5 events.
Wow.
And we sold 100,000 tickets, and 15 years later, albeit it didn't happen last year, it's still going.
Yeah.
And the capacity now is the biggest capacity in Europe, on a par with Amnesia. That really annoys me. I didn't know that fact. We've got the capacity of 10,000. They've also got the capacity of 10,000. We could have applied for 10,001.
Oh.
And that really does annoy me. And I have to live with that for the rest of my life.
No.
At least we all know about it now.
Yeah. Everyone knows about it now. It counts. And
it was originally at Boddington's Brewery.
Yeah.
What was that like as a venue for those who didn't get the chance to experience that?
It was amazing. We had the full license, the capacity of 3,000, but on the very, very first night, we knew there was an issue that none of us could foresee coming. And the problem was, it was fully licensed, by the way. Environmental Health signed it off. Everyone signed it off. But the first night we realised that the base was leaking from the roof straight into Strangeways Prison. And then we were kind of within 2 weeks getting letters from prisoners to the office to say, we heard Annie Mac set on Saturday, have you got a tape? And we were like, this is absolutely bonkers. And then the governor blamed us for an increase of drug usage within Strangeways Prison. So we had to leave. I didn't find it funny at the time. Nor did the governor, actually. But 1,800 prisoners did, and they enjoyed that free of charge. So we had to leave, and we jumped in Sam's Medley looking for another space. And just one night I was Googling air raid shelters in Manchester, and Store Street, where we moved to, was the biggest air raid shelter in the city centre. And that was our spiritual home. And in fact, people don't realise that right at the very back of Store Street, there's, where the Portaloos are, or where they were, there's a corridor there, and it has on it Warden's office written above it. And that's where people used to come in and sign during World War II.
Oh my God, that's so...
Yeah, that's crazy.
I never knew it was like... obviously, the space, we were talking about it earlier today, like the space of Store Street is incredible. And when I lived in Ancoats and I used to walk past in the day, seeing it being used as a car park, and then on the Friday night be turned into Warehouse Project was so like mad. And we were saying...
We got the keys at 7 o'clock on Friday.
Yeah.
We'd turn it into a nightclub, and then we'd hand it back at 6 o'clock on the Monday morning.
Wow.
There was this one night I was driving into work, and it was like 9 o'clock, and then security were panicking because there was a Ford Fiesta in the middle of the dance floor.
We were going to ask you if there was ever a car left in the car park.
Yeah, there was. So there's this Ford Fiesta, and I said, well, don't worry about it. The guy will pick it up. Anyway, the queue had formed outside, I actually think we had LaRue playing that night. And anyway, 10 to 10, I was looking at this car, and the idea was I'd got 25 doormen to pick it up, to walk it out. And then all of a sudden, this Chinese guy, must have been like 4'11", ran in. And I think he thought he was like being spiked. he couldn't get his head around the fact he'd parked his car in the middle of a nightclub.
Oh, that's what I mean. When it's a car park in the day, you wouldn't look twice at it because it literally just had the sign like £5 all day, and you literally wouldn't ever have guessed.
No, he just got in and drove off. He looked in absolute shock. And I'd love to meet that guy actually again, just to explain, because I do think he honestly thought somebody had, put something in his drink.
That's like taking, when you go to Asda or Tesco and you lose your car in the car park, to a whole new level. Yeah.
Oh, that's so funny. We were just laughing today. I wonder if anyone's ever left their car. Yeah, they have.
Yeah,
that's so class. That's so class.
Yeah.
And now, obviously, Warehouse Project is based at Mayfield Depot.
Yes.
What made you change to that venue? Because both Store Street and Mayfield Depot are incredible venues.
But also there was Victoria Warehouse in between, wasn't there? So
yeah, I didn't like it at all. Hated it. Absolutely hated it. Yeah.
I never went to the one at Victoria Warehouse.
As a party goer, my only problem with because you come in from the town centre is you always get dropped off in a really unsafe place at Victoria Warehouse by taxi drivers, and that's my only issue with it.
Do you know what? It's fine now. It's great now because the new people running it, but the people that were running it when we had it, they didn't have a clue. Did not have a clue what they were doing, and it was so frustrating. So actually, when we moved back to, we were only there 2 years. When we moved back to Store Street, it was everyone was high-fiving the first night. It's the family were back again. But every single year on year, we always try and improve what we did the previous year. We've taken Store Street to a level where you just couldn't improve it anymore. And when you can't improve it, I think the customers start to get a bit bored. You take things for granted. So we had to make the big, bold move. And it's moving from 2,500 to 10,000. And it was risky. There was a possibility people were going to say you've sold out, it's not intimate anymore, and actually it was the right move to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember going to the George Fitzgerald night at Mayfield Depot the year that it was still at Store Street, but you did one night at Mayfield.
Yes.
And it was incredible. And then walking into Mayfield not last year now, the year before, for the first time, felt completely different. I didn't know where I was going and whether it had been arranged differently from the George Fitzgerald night. But I remember going in there for George Fitzgerald and just being completely blown away by this huge venue. And then going the next year and seeing Bicep with the mad lasers, which we always bang on about, but that is just incredible.
Yeah, that was a good night. I mean, one of these things that's come out of the last 12 months is I've had the chance to really look at myself and not in the mirror, I do that every day, but I used to take it for granted walking around a venue with 10,000 people dancing, just thinking that's very normal, or Parklife, 80,000 people thinking, oh yeah, it's just Parklife. But actually 10,000 people under one roof every Friday and Saturday is crazy. I'll never just take that as being the norm again. Every time I see that now, I'll respect it.
Yeah. And I think more people will stay till the end of gigs and club nights as well. I feel like everyone attending won't take it for granted either. Everyone's going to realise how much it means. Yeah, exactly.
The whole process though, as we see it, is got such an atmosphere around it. I miss that as well. Even knowing something's going to go on sale and it's going to be Warehouse Project season. The buzz around that is I miss.
Tease. I love the tease. I love sitting at home, looking at my phone, thinking about I'm just going to tease people now on Twitter, and then just sit there watching it.
Oh, that's brilliant.
It is good. It just builds up the anticipation, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's what Warehouse Project and Parklife do so well, though, isn't it? Parklife videos are always everyone's waiting on 10 to
Yeah, there'll just be that one image that's news incoming or something, and everyone's ah!
Yeah, and it's some cool cartoon.
Normally we always drop a hint to try and play with people, and actually the last big hint we did, I think it was 3 years ago, before we announced the lineup, we put posters up all around town. It was just a Nike trainer, a retro Nike trainer, and the only guy who understood what we were trying to do actually used to work at Skiddle. It was a guy called David Blake, and he texted me. He texted me to say Frank Ocean. He was the only one that got it.
Oh, that's it.
That's so funny.
Oh, a little shout out.
Yeah. So yeah.
I'll wait for the next. I'm going to wait for the next one and try and get that right.
Yeah.
I could tell you now if you want.
Can we know? Are we allowed to say it?
Not a chance.
I was we
Probably because we said you were a DJ.
Yeah.
He's like, no, I'm not going to share that anymore. So what were the best nights to take place at the venues that you've booked artists at?
Yeah, have you got any standout memories?
I've got my own personal favourites. So obviously, growing up, and still am a huge Smiths fan. And in 2011, we booked a band called Chic. And this was just before Nile Rodgers had this big track with Pharrell and Daft Punk. And it's actually, do you know what? He didn't sell out. It was very, very busy, but it didn't sell out because people didn't realise who Chic were. And for the very final track, when they played La Freak, I sat in the pit, which is the best at the front, and Johnny Marr came on and performed with them. And to me, that was the perfect 10 minutes.
Yeah,
that's
Rich mentioned that as well, didn't he?
Yeah, because he said that you guys were kind of putting on Chic before they kind of had their revival and started like going to festivals and stuff. Like that must have been crazy.
No, it's true. So there is footage on YouTube of Chic at Parklife on the Skittle bus. With Johnny Marr having an interview.
Wow.
Yeah, that's incredible.
Yeah. I went a couple of years ago, I saw Chic at Castlefield Bowl, and that's like one of my all-time favourite ever gigs. That was honestly, I remember like Nile Rodgers was getting everyone to clap, and I looked around and every single person in the bowl had their arms above their head, and it was like a gorgeous June like afternoon. It was beautiful.
Yeah.
Those days will be back. Do you know the weirdest thing is Johnny Marr became my neighbour 4 years later. Next door. So yeah, I have to say as well, the loveliest guy you could ever meet. The nicest, most genuine, down to earth, loveliest man, and his wife as well. Both lovely people.
That's great. Because sometimes when you meet your heroes and it doesn't go well, it's not nice, is it?
Well, yeah. I have met his other half as well from the Smiths. And you know what? He said things that have been wrong over the last few years, but when I've met him, he's been very pleasant.
Yeah.
And actually, I'll be honest, quite funny.
Yeah.
Well, that's good.
Yeah, that's reassuring because like I grew up listening to Morrissey as the family used to play it a lot, and then having to kind of separate him from his music or not listen to his music because of the stuff that he says. It's been like definitely like a challenge, like knowing how to celebrate that.
I'll tell you a story now that I can't believe I'm going to tell you.
Yay!
I've never told anyone this before, so he's going to kill me. So I am friends with Morrissey's nephews, Sam, Alex and Jay, and they knew I was a big Mozza fan. And every time I see them, they always give me something which is so amazing of them, always, like Morrissey crew hoodies and stuff like that you can't hold. But there was a spate a few years ago where Alex would turn up at my office and give me a bag. It's like, oh, what's this? Oh, it's a Giorgio Armani shirt. Morrissey wore that. It's like, all right, cool. And then I got a couple more things. And then one day he turned up with this bottle. I'm like, what's that? I'm like, oh, it's his aftershave. I'm like, well, where's that come from? I've just taken it from Zoom. I'm like, right, we need to stop doing this now. Because it's actually, you can't just go in and nick your uncle's aftershave to give to me. We just need to pause it there. So,
but do you
crazy stuff?
Do you think it actually is, or do you think they're just grabbing things out of their wardrobe and being like?
No, it's 100% is. 100%. Yeah.
Don't poo-poo the story, John.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I just thought that would be probably what I would do. And
Alex,
you had
Alex. I think Alex will listen to this. I'll tell this story as well. So Morrissey has an obsession with what's that candle called? Diptyque candles.
Yeah, Diptyque.
Absolutely loves Diptyque candles. A couple of years ago, he phoned Alex up one morning and said, "Have you got anything planned today?" And Alex is like, "No." So, all right, can you go to Selvages at the Trafford Centre and pick me up 6 Diptyque handles? And I said, yeah, I can do that. He said, any chance you can do it this morning? He said, yeah, how come? He said, because I've got you on a flight at 1:30. I'm in Palma at the moment in New York. Can you bring them over? And he got him on a flight to drop the 6 candles off, and he had to come back in the same day.
Wow.
Yeah.
So they don't have Diptyque over in Spain?
I don't think so. They mustn't do.
Well, that takes like dropping something off to like a whole new level, doesn't it?
Yeah, Jesus. And you've had a huge involvement in festivals over the years. So before I get it wrong, which festivals have you been involved with? Obviously, as well as Parklife, with the lovely Parklife.
Hideout, Croatia, Annie Mac Festival, Malta, Kendall Calling, Blue Dot Festival number 6. I kind of think that's it. I'll probably think of some more, but yeah, that's it for now.
God, that's a good company of festivals to like be involved with. Like, oh, great.
Are these all like co-creations, or do you have a hand in like helping with artists or advising? Or
no, Parklife is our baby.
Yeah,
that's 100%. All the others are with other people, but Parklife's ours.
Yeah.
And it should have been 10 years last year. How does that make you feel, knowing that you've done a full decade now?
Well, the fact that it didn't happen, you just completely depressed me, so thanks.
But it will happen. It will happen.
It will happen. Do you know what? It normally takes place middle of June, as you know.
Yeah.
We pushed it back quite a few months ago to mid-September, and I'm confident. I'm very, very confident.
Oh, that's so exciting.
It does. Manchester's such a huge city, but it depends on the student population of Manchester. So what made you think then and not next year, or are you just hoping for this year?
You've got to plan for success, haven't you? And clearly we've not announced the lineup yet. It is booked, Sam's booked it. But I just think September's going to be right. We have got a new order that we've announced the night before, on the 10th of September. Ticket sales are phenomenal for it. People are dying to go out to a gig. And I think it was it was a fluke. What the perfect Manchester band to bring us by. That will be the first big event that takes place in the city, 10th of September. So it's good to have a Manchester band headline a Manchester gig.
Yeah, and they're also being supported by Working Men's Club, aren't they? And they're a really exciting northern band. I think most of them are based in Hebden Bridge, I think. But that in itself is exciting to see such a cool up and coming band on the same kind of platform.
Do you know who's really good on his bands, on his up and going bands? So Working Men's Club, Lottery Winners, Andy Burnham.
Yeah,
he's absolutely spot on with his bands.
He has dabbled in DJing, hasn't he?
He DJ'd for on United We Stream, actually.
Yeah.
He DJ'd versus Steve Rotherham there for Liverpool.
Wow.
And this is another thing I'm going to tell you now. That was clearly Manchester versus Liverpool.
Yeah.
We couldn't advertise it as Manchester versus Liverpool, could we? Because that'd be quite bad, but it was. And there was no way on earth I was going to allow Liverpool to win. It's just not going to happen. Manchester had to win. So I actually I didn't fix it, but obviously they weren't DJing back-to-back live. That would have been absolutely impossible to do. So we recorded Liverpool first, and then I possibly showed Andy the set list. I'm not saying I did, but I could have done if I'd really wanted to.
The option was there, yeah.
The option was there, yeah.
So you could pre-select all the choices.
Do you reckon there's a chance that you could get him a slot at the Parklife Festival?
Andy's been on stage at 2 Parklifes, actually.
Yeah.
The first time our conversations probably became quite concrete was in 2017. He'd only been elected for a few days, and we had the attack on the city, the 22nd of May, the arena attack. And then there was obviously the One Love gig 10 days after that, which was 50,000 people. The Parklife's 80,000 people. And the One Love gig was absolutely amazing, but to me it was an international thing. You had like Bieber, Miley Cyrus, and all the huge names. But I wanted, by again coincidence, we had the 1975 books, which have got a Manchester link, and I wanted to really recognise the first attenders, the paramedics, the police, the NHS, the taxi drivers, the councillors, the public that opened the doors, fire brigade. And we got representatives all on stage, and Andy came on, made a speech, and you could hear a pin drop in the crowd. It was a moment I'll never forget for the rest of my life. And then the following year, he came back and introduced. He came across 2 guys when he was walking through Piccadilly Gardens who were busking at the time, and I think the name of their band was Pros, and he put them together with the Manchester Survivors Choir, and they were kids and mums and dads who were at the arena that night, and they formed a choir and they performed on stage together, and Andy brought them out to do it. And it was for those people to come in to an event with 80,000 people. They'd suffered so much those 2 years leading up to it. Some of them had major anxiety. We had to find ways where they could get to the stage without seeing other people or being in contact with crowds. They couldn't have done that. So yeah, they pulled it off, and it was again another majorly proud moment.
Yeah. How did the Manchester attacks affect you as an event organiser, obviously of a huge festival and of Warehouse Project? How did it affect you kind of mentally and in organising your events?
It was the following morning, do you know what? I was watching it breaking on the news and I thought, there's no way. I thought a base pin had blown or something like that. And it was only the next day I woke up and turned the news on and I was seeing the attack on the city centre, on the country, and we knew we knew many people we dead. We now know that there was 22. Some of those families that I've become quite friendly with. I'm friendly with the Arena Survivors Choir. I'm friendly with Fegan Murray, who's brought out Martin's Law. Andrew Roussos, and his wife Lisa, whose daughter Safi, she lost her life there, and it's affected everybody. Everyone in the whole of the UK, it's affected. Yeah. But what a moment when you saw Albert Square and people just come together and bursting out into songs, just sporadic song. And it was that's what we do in this city. It's quite emotional to talk about, isn't it? That's what we do in this city centre. I'm not going to swear on this, because I don't know who's listening to it, but we fight against adversity because we do not give a toss. Basically, we will stand up and fight. No one will defeat us, and that's what we did. That's exactly what we did. We came out stronger. Yeah. But I'll be honest, 2 weeks later when Parklife was on, and we had marksmen hidden in trees and things like that, it wasn't pleasant to work at all. And the police implemented things that me as the events organiser, I didn't have a clue was coming. They kept it. They were so ultra professional. Like, they closed all the roads down in the perimeter of Heaton Park half an hour before everybody was leaving, because obviously one of the biggest concerns was a vehicle that can be used as a weapon. So, yeah, it's certainly changed the way we look at security anyway.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I've experienced that. I feel a lot safer going into an event now. I don't know. I always felt safe going into an event, but now I feel
being more aware of like sudden threats. I guess that's,
and event organisers have to adapt to that.
I don't know if it's because I'm an event organiser, but I sometimes get slight anxiety in areas because I understand the possibilities. And there's one area, and I don't know why, every single time I panic, and that's occasionally when I have to go to London for a meeting. And I get out of the cab at Euston train station, and you walk under the station to go up the escalator, and always at that point there, I don't know what it is. It's like kind of weird. In fact, when I'm talking this through with both of the two of you, maybe I should avoid that area and just go through another entrance. But yeah, it definitely, not that we weren't doing an amazing job anyway. Yeah. We weren't talking about events organisers, security, police, but everybody steps up the game at that point because there's a new form of attack that we need to be aware of.
Yeah. Touching on security, you do a lot at Warehouse Project and Parklife around drug safety. Well, we want to discuss that, but also you're the nighttime economy advisor, and we did the DCMS inquiry, and it had the question around festival organisers. What can they do to limit the amount of drugs being taken on site? Do you think that drug use is synonymous with music events, or does it annoy you that that's always brought up by the government?
No, I don't. So if you're talking about the same one, I gave evidence of that select committee, and it was about how you bring festivals back. And I was so annoyed at the end of it because we were supposed to be talking about how do you bring festivals back with COVID around, and is it testing, is it social distancing, what is the answer? And then they threw in the drug question at the end. What has that got to do with bringing festivals back? And this is the mentality of Suits. This isn't a new thing. Drugs are not a new thing. Drugs have been around. When you're at school and you're reading, that you're told to read the poets. Keats, Wordsworth, they're all taking opium. We know that. This is not new. And it's not just with music. I guarantee you can go to any pub, a lot of restaurants, even multi-use offices, and I'll do a swab on those toilets there, and you will find evidence of something. But yeah, clearly, it takes place in festivals. Clearly, it takes place in nightclubs. And anybody involved in festivals or nightclubs that says it doesn't take place in their venue, there's one of two reasons they're saying that. They're either stupid or they're lying, because it does. So my stance on this is this: it's going to happen. How can I stop it getting in? If the government can't stop drugs getting into the UK, if they can't stop drugs getting into a category A prison like strange rates, then how on earth am I supposed to do it, stopping it into a field? I mean, let's be realistic. So what I say is, it's going to happen. So let's educate people about, responsibilities and, what could happen. And if you feel poorly, do this, that, and the other. Put enough facilities in there to make sure people are looked after safely, whether it's volunteers or if you come to the back of Parklife, there's practically a hospital there on site. So yeah, you cannot ignore it. We were the first ones in the UK to join forces with the Home Office and to do back-of-house drug testing. And it is absolutely the right thing to do. You cannot ignore that. And it's going to be here next year. It's going to be here this year. It's going to be here in 50 years' time. In 100 years' time, people will probably be licking bitcoins. I've no idea. But, nothing's going away. It's not going away. So let's address it, and let's address it like adults rather than hiding behind it.
Yeah. Do you think it's feasible for every single event, music event or other event, to have that kind of testing on site?
No, it's absolutely not. If you look at a venue, a small venue like the White Hotel in Salford, for example, which is an incredible venue, it's not financially viable. But what they can do is they can have a couple of staff trained to look out for things or deal with things. And, every single venue, every single licensed premises takes a responsibility for the customers when they're in there. And that's one of the 5 licensing objectives. You have to be responsible for the customers, is keeping people safe and away from harm. So everyone needs to discuss it. Everyone needs to learn about it, be aware of it. And clearly, the bigger the event, the more responsibility you take.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
I must say, just, to caveat that, you cannot cotton wool everybody that goes in there. It just takes one person to do something that, they may not have understood it. It may have been out of their control. They may normally 9 times out of 10 had an allergic reaction. Things do go wrong, as we know, across the globe, not just the UK, not just Greater Manchester. Mm-hmm. But as long as you set out to do as much as you possibly can, then you are a good organiser.
Yeah, I've seen warnings sent out from Warehouse Project as well, which I think is really good. Mm-hmm. But I suppose that all comes under what you're aiming to do as a nighttime economy advisor. So how did that come about?
It actually came about because when I knew we were getting a new mayor, and all the candidates were running for it, I always felt that, the nighttime economy, hospitality, is the 5th biggest industry in the whole of the UK. You probably heard me saying all this stuff before, so it gets a bit boring now, but, there's 420,000 people that work within that sector, in my sector across Greater Manchester. But some of the people that were making the decisions didn't respect the sector. I kind of get it. If you go for a meal, or you go to the cinema, or you go to the pub or a nightclub, so when you're seeing your friend, you're letting your hair down, you're having fun, you're having a few drinks. But actually, we bring a lot to the economy, a serious amount of money, serious amounts of jobs. And as I say, it's the 5th biggest industry. So I wanted to speak to the candidates and see whether they'd support the idea of almost a task force of people, like a board of people who would give advice to whoever won. Now, luckily, Andy won, who completely understands the importance of it.
Yeah.
And, I think the conversation stemmed from that first time we came to Parklife. On the back of that, we were talking quite a bit. What would I think about this? What would I think about that? And then, eventually he asked me 12 months later, almost exactly whether I'd take the role up. And I never thought that it would be one person. I thought it'd be a few. But he's been great. He's been so supportive behind the scenes. Some examples have been in the press, but the vast majority aren't in the press. He's on the phone a lot, saying, what can you do to help this, to help that? And when the Deaf Institute, when it was breaking, that he was closing, and Gorilla. Within 2 minutes, he was like, right, this cannot happen. We cannot have 2 grassroots venues close. It would be a disaster. The smaller bands need these venues. They have the pipeline for talent. So I said something on Thursday on socials. By the Saturday, the new owners are sat with lawyers doing the deal on Sunday. It got announced. So that's how quickly he moves, and that's how much he cares.
Yeah.
Wow.
I remember seeing something around making trams run later in Manchester.
Yeah, I did actually drive him mental about that. So my school of thought was, we talk about having a 24-hour city, and we've got the infrastructure for it, but it doesn't really work when trams stop at 11 o'clock. And I'm not just talking about customers getting home, but what about those people that work in restaurants and bars that shut at half 11, 12? Why is it right that they then get penalised? And a lot of them are paid minimum or living wage. Why are they penalised and they have to pay for a taxi to get home? Didn't sit right with me, that. So I was saying to Andy, look, can we just trial this over Christmas? And he got a lot of pushback from that people that didn't want to do it. And he stood his ground and said, no, this is happening. And it did happen. And it was so fantastic to see. And a lot of people were saying, oh, you're going to get drunk people on there. There's going to be fights. It's going to be this. It's going to be that. Do you know what? There was not one incident. Nothing. So, or you always get these people who point fingers and they always find something wrong with something. Like at the moment, I'm talking about, in my opinion, I think when non-essential retail opens, I think it's far safer to go for lunch in a restaurant with all, one-way systems, Q&R codes, track and trace, social distance, and it is to go and buy a jumper in Primark. It does not make sense to me. Now, how can you open the Trafford Centre? I'm not going to go to Trafford Centre, by the way, but how can you open the Trafford Centre but keep Manchester City Art Gallery shut? It's bonkers. It's absolutely bonkers. It doesn't make sense.
When you go into a supermarket at the moment, it is such a free-for-all. There's not even like one-way directions in a lot of supermarkets at the moment. So when I and like other people have been into these bars and pubs, in the summer, I felt so safe. I felt like everyone was respective of everyone's space. Everyone knew what they were doing, what direction it was going in. So how have you found being the nighttime economy advisor during the last 12 months?
Well, I'll be honest, it's not been a breeze, has it?
No.
It's kept me quite busy, let's be honest. But just going back to the supermarket thing, I've got a major problem with supermarkets now, because I go to the one in Oldham, I go to Sainsbury's, and I always see Sally Webster in there from Corrie quite often. Right? Have you seen Bridgerton?
Yes, I have, and I know what you're going to say.
That's Sally's daughter.
Can you believe that?
I can't look at Sally Webster in the face again after seeing what her daughter gets up to in Bridgerton. I'm going to have to hide in the frozen aisle or something.
I've not watched it. I'm going to Google her.
Well, don't Google it when I'm on. That's rude, isn't it?
Sally Webster.
Yeah.
Oh, from Corrie. Yeah. I've not watched Bridgerton.
So her daughter's like the main gal in it.
It's literally pornographic.
Yeah, I've heard.
Yeah. It is, isn't it? They go to it in a bit too much detail about certain things, and it's like one of them.
And they use songs from modern day.
Yeah,
and then they do. Yeah, I've heard about that.
It's brilliant. They use an orchestral version of Billie Eilish, which is amazing.
That is so funny. That love that.
I'm not sure. I think I need to watch it. You've all watched it for me.
Yeah, we give you spoiler alerts there.
Yeah. So I think touching back on your going out experiences, where would you go out now? Back in the day, it was all the Hacienda. Yeah. But what do you enjoy doing now?
Everything's open in this hypothetical situation.
Everything's open.
I absolutely just love, this is so boring and it has to be an age thing. I love going for a meal with friends.
Yeah.
I absolutely love it. And I'm really lucky that occasionally I can go to these wine pairing, these wine pairing things. So it's like 7 courses.
Oh,
and get a glass of wine with each one. To me, they're the best. I love them.
So like a 6 by Nico situation.
Yeah, we had one of those a couple of weeks ago, actually. Home delivery. It was really
Oh, me and my sis are doing one in March. I'm well excited.
Yeah, they're amazing. They actually are amazing.
Simon Wood does a good one as well. His is really good.
Oh, yeah.
My favourite restaurants at the moment, He's an incredible chef, and he's been a fantastic voice during the last 12 months. There's a guy called Tom Kerridge, and his restaurant's called the Bull and Bear in Manchester. I love it. It's fantastic. It's very opulent, but the food is extreme. Basic's not the right word, but it's just, like a really good,
like a classic kind of thing.
Steak and pie, and that's
that's his style, though, isn't it?
God.
Like good home cooked food.
Yeah, I miss eating out so much.
Yeah, me too. I've seen that like loads of the northern quarters getting pedestrianised.
Yeah.
Do you think that was that going to happen prior to COVID, or has COVID made that happen because everyone was sat out on the streets?
I hope it's great.
I don't know, but my guess is I think it was going to happen, but I think COVID has definitely rubber stamped it.
Great. I felt like you were in like Barcelona or somewhere.
Yeah.
Through the Northern Quarter last year.
It's so good. And on so many levels, it helps the operators. It feels safe. It feels great. And, from an environmental point of view as well, you've not got the buses going through that area. It really is a good move.
Yeah, I'm excited to sit out in summer.
Because pre that, it was quite difficult to find a spot in a beer garden in Manchester on sunny days because all the good spots were like taken. So it was good that all these extra places opened up last year.
Yes.
Yeah.
Begging for that.
And all of these kind of like culture food outlets have happened as well. They're all over Instagram. I think there's been a huge influx of those, which is quite positive to see.
So I'll make a prediction. So the high streets now, when we reopen again, they've changed. They've changed for good. So there's no Top Man, Top Shop, Miss Selfridges, Debenhams, Burton's, Wallace's. They've all gone, and there'll be more to follow as well. So you've got those massive vacuum spaces. I think, sadly, a lot of those food traders who had to close during COVID, they're desperate to get out. And I think we're going to see cooperatives forming of food traders who will create food halls and share the expense of rents, overhead bills, and that very similar to kind of Mackie Mare, where you don't have one guy running it, you all share the cost. I think that's the future.
There is like an argument for that kind of like diversive high streets anyway, isn't there, in terms of like safety? I remember reading an article ages ago and it talked about how like Market Street, for example, after 8 p.m, it would all close because all the shops have closed, and that is very well lit area now because all the shops have closed. But if you get kind of bars and food places all mixed in, kind of like how London's set up, how their high streets are all kind of different types of venues, it'll become a much, for example, Northern Quarter in the evening is a very high populated place, but like everyone kind of moves from different spots instead of having it all kind of like dispersed around.
I also think as well, and I'm very confident about this, that the bigger the city centre, the harder it's going to be to recover. So when we're in tier 2, and we could go to some of those restaurants, people were staying local. The city centre is going to be the hardest one to get people to come back to. I think people are going to stay local. So all those suburbs like, Old Trafford, Wigan, Tameside, Stockport, this is their time to thrive. All those independents, those family-run businesses, they're going to be given a real opportunity to thrive, because I think it's going to be harder to get people onto public transport. People have realised about the added expense and the hassle of waiting in queues for cabs and things. It's going to change things. It's going to change the way we operate. And, again, throw into the mix, majority of offices will never return like they ever did do before. My partner, she works for the second biggest online store in the UK. And although they've had phenomenal sales, they're never going to return back to normal. She's been told that. She's had the official email, it'll be 3 days working from home, 2 days in the office. And that has a huge knock-on effect when you think about no sandwich trade at lunchtime, no drinks after work. It's devastating.
Yeah, I hadn't really thought about it that far.
Yeah, I've always thought about it from just the empty office space, but just thinking about those lunchtime kind of places and the after-work drinks, it's going to change the whole landscape of it.
Have you got plans for Warehouse Project this year, or are you going to see how Parklife sales and stuff go?
It's been booked at the moment. We're ready.
That's great news.
Yes. I am super keeping my fingers crossed for a proper autumn season. You can't beat, like, when the clubs reopen, they all release their lineups and
Yeah.
seasons, I completely like miss that atmosphere, I think.
The excitement.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And when you've got like huge venues like that, I'm really excited for that.
So when can we expect any Warehouse Project news, or are you just going to wait for a little bit?
I'm not going to tell you that. We like to tease people.
Oh, yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
Wait
we'll look
for
out for the teasers.
Yeah, wait for a poster with a trainer on it, and then
We-
Will it be Frank Ocean?
We did a post, I think it was 2009. We thought would be really cool. And we did a World War II code. So we announced the lineup where every letter was a colour. And we sold no tickets because people couldn't crack it.
that is quite difficult.
Yeah, we had to re-release the whole season the week after.
That's so funny.
Oh, it's too hard.
Yeah.
So we usually ask a question at the end of every episode, but we've got a couple, actually. One in particular is, obviously you've been going out for a while, and how does it feel looking back on your going out experiences, knowing that you're kind of the reason for a lot of younger people having their going out experiences now? Is it kind of...
I think what you're trying to say is, now that I'm an old person, how do I feel looking at the young kids going out? I can answer it. I'm very privileged.
Yeah.
I fluked it. You know, I didn't get any A levels, didn't go to university. And somehow I've ended up with Parklife Warehouse Project and the role advising Greater Manchester. So yeah, it's something that I'm pretty proud of.
Yeah.
Oh, great.
That's incredible.
Shall we ask our final question?
Yeah.
So, if you could go out anywhere with anyone, who and where would it be?
Anywhere in the world?
Yeah.
Yeah, dead or alive?
Well, I mean, it's clear. It's obviously David Bowie.
Yeah.
Where would you go?
Think, can this place have closed?
Yeah.
Well, without a shadow of a doubt, I'd go for a night out with David Bowie at Studio 54 in New York.
Oh, wow.
Oh,
That's
I feel
it.
like
epic.
Did someone in Series 1 say they went to that? I think, maybe.
I'm not sure.
I think Danny wanted to go there with Prince. So
yeah.
you might see
I see Danny from Crazy P there.
there with Prince.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for your time.
No, thank you. And you know what? Thank you as well to Skiddle for your support through COVID, because I do watch socials and I do see you retweet things and stuff like that. And, you know, I know you've got a great platform, a great audience, so thank you. It means a lot to everybody.
Thank you. We really appreciate that. I think it's been a hard time for everyone, but again, thank you to you for like sticking up for employees like us, companies like us, because without you kind of lobbying for us, it's quite hard to get listened to by the government. So yeah, definitely thank you as well.
Don't listen to me.
A bit more.
Okay, a bit more, maybe.
But
Okay.
thank you so much.
Look after yourselves. Thank you.
You too.
And I
Bye.
can't wait to put tickets on sale with you. Bye.
Thank you. Yeah.
Bye.
Oh, thank you so much.
Thank you for listening to the Going Out podcast with Skiddle. Don't forget to like, rate, and subscribe wherever you hear this podcast.
Thank you.